Our issues, our voices, our views. This is Politics in Black. What's happening, family? We are back and we are live. And I just blew out my ear with that volume, but that's cool. This is a special broadcast of Politics in Black, brought to you once again by the National Assembly of American Slavery Descendants, aka NAASD in Los Angeles, LA. My name is Chad Brown. Sitting next to me is the lovely Friday Jones, and everybody was talking about how lovely you were out that last show.
Thank you.
She's
have
lovely
to,
every day, though.
I have to try not wearing my glasses more often. I don't know.
Absolutely. But we are here on a special broadcast today to talk about the crisis, once again, that's happening in Jackson, Mississippi. And this is something that we've been talking about, but, it has risen to epic proportions. So we wanted to come today on a special show outside of our regularly scheduled program to talk about this situation and talk to some folks on the ground to figure out.
And this is not, unfortunately, unique to Mississippi.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is something that is representative of how our communities are being treated across the nation, especially, our blackest communities, of which Jackson, Mississippi is one of the blackest cities that we have in this country at 82%, I believe,
wow,
American freedmen population, and living in 30% poverty. But we're going to talk about all of that because we got some experts and some folks on the ground once again to come in and give us that perspective. So without any further ado, Friday, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about it before we get started.
I want to get right to it. We've got a lot to cover. We've got folks on the ground, some powerhouses, so let's go.
Absolutely. So coming first to Politics in Black, we have Danielle Holmes. And Danielle Holmes is a national social justice organizer with Repairers of the Breach and the Poor People's Campaign, which is a national call for moral revival. And she is also a native of Greenwood, Mississippi. She currently resides in Jackson, Mississippi, and is a graduate of Greenwood High School. And she attended Tougaloo College. But she is the director of the Mississippi Prison Reform Coalition and serves on the steering committee of the Mississippi Rapid Response Coalition. Danielle stays on the front lines in the state of Mississippi. Please welcome to the broadcast, Miss Danielle Holmes. Hey, Danielle, how are you, sister?
I'm doing great today.
Good.
How are you all doing?
Doing well. Glad to have you here. We know you have some great information to share with us. But joining you on this first segment here, Danielle, we're going to welcome Rukia Lumumba. And Rukia is the executive director of the People's Advocacy Institute and co-director of the Electoral Justice of the Movement for Black Lives and the founding director of the People's Advocacy Institute and co-director of the Electoral Justice Project of the Movement of Black Lives. Her work is centered on the belief that community agency is what architects robust systems change and what is needed to build new institutional power that paves the way for more than just systems rooted in restoration, resilience, and self-determination. She is the daughter of community justice icon and late Mayor Chokwe Lumumba and Nubia Lumumba. Rukia continues the Lumumba family's rich history of advancing issues and initiatives that elevate the legal, economical, health, and educational rights of individuals, families, and communities. She is also sister of the current mayor of Jackson, Chokwe Lumumba Jr. She holds a JD from Howard University School of Law in Washington, D.C. But most importantly, she holds a bachelor's degree in political science from the Tougaloo College in Jackson, Mississippi. So please welcome to the podcast a friend of mine, Miss Rukia Lumumba.
Hey, y'all.
Rukia.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for being here, sister, and it's good to see you after so many years. So thank you for coming, and thank you for the work that you're doing on the ground. I've been trying to reach you for the past couple of days, but you out there distributing water, and I got much respect for that, sister.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we're going to hop right in with this conversation because I know you guys are dealing with an epic crisis on the ground there in Jackson. And so I really wanted to bring both of you here today so we could talk about what the people of Jackson are dealing with currently, what relief efforts are happening on the ground, how our audience can get engaged, get involved, and help support you in your efforts on the ground. And really, just hearing from you, in what needs to happen next in the city of Jackson. So, Rakia, I'm going to start with you. Let us know what the situation is.
Yeah, well, I want to first just start by thanking you all for having us, for highlighting Jackson. You know, Danielle is one of my closest comrades in this struggle. And so really happy to be sharing this time with her. You know, I'm a longtime resident of Jackson, you know, a member of the Mississippi Rapid Response Coalition, which is led by the People's Advocacy Institute, the Mississippi Poor People's Campaign, One Voice Mississippi. I'm gonna name them, y'all. I got to.
Go ahead, please.
Justice,
Yep.
Yes.
Inequity, Alternate Roots, Mississippi Moves, Operation Good, Strong Arms of Mississippi, Mississippi Black Women's Roundtable, Southern Poverty Law Center, and over 30 partnering organizations that have come together to really mobilize communities across Mississippi to provide rapid response support in this time of crisis. So whether these crises are caused by a natural disaster or caused by disasters of infrastructure failures, we come together to respond, and we've been responding since 2019.
Awesome.
So, you know, go ahead. Yeah.
I just said awesome. This awesome work is necessary.
Yeah. You know, we trying, right? Like we're a collective force here. Like we work together hard to save ourselves. And so, you know, today's water crisis, you know, as y'all have talked about and seen over and over again on the airwaves, or talk to family members that you may have here, you know, this water crisis has been a decades in the making.
Yes.
You know, it dates back to the 1970s, right? With both a significant drop in federal funding and a decline in Jackson's population, right? And it really began to decline due to white flight to avoid school segregation.
Yes.
So I want to just lay it out because I want to make it clear that this is not just an issue that is about infrastructure failures. It's about how infrastructure failures plague predominantly Black cities, how racism and classism plays into a divestment from our communities that allows us to be placed in situations where we're working with, as in the instance of Jackson, a budget of a little bit over 300 million, right? For a city that is the capital of the state, that houses all of the state legislatures, all of the governor's offices, as well as many state properties, all of which don't have to pay taxes in the city, right? Don't have to pay a water bill in the city, right? But Jackson has a small budget and is responsible for a facility that is over 108 years old, right? That has for decades been laid there without state assistance, without federal assistance. Jackson administration and residents have been placed with the burden of carrying the whole state in terms of water infrastructure in the capital city. So I want to come back to it, but I want to make sure that, you know, I be quiet for a little bit, give Danielle a little time.
No, thank you, Rakia.
Yeah.
That was perfect, because we do want to talk about the legacy of it. We know this is a longer problem than just what we see happening today, and today is an accumulation of, just like you said, a legacy of racist policy and divestment targeted specifically at the city of Jackson, because this is not something we see in the suburbs around Jackson, right? The whiter suburbs around Jackson, they seem to be doing all right with water right now and other, you know, infrastructure resources, et cetera, correct?
That's right. That's right. Oh, absolutely. The suburbs, one thing that we got to realize is that when white flight began to increase, and I want to be clear, we're not really concerned about people leaving the city and the color of the folks leaving the city. The only reason it is important to acknowledge it is that when they left, the state began to divest.
Right.
Yes.
That is the issue.
Yes.
It's not about people choosing to live in the suburbs. You can live in the suburbs all you want. But the reality is that if you're going to leave and go somewhere else, the state still has a responsibility to this place.
That's right.
We want our equal share of the pot. We want an equitable distribution of the resources. So we're not going back to the days of separate and unequal, right? And so you got to give us what is due ours.
Yeah.
The residents that deserve exactly the support and the resources that are ours in the first place. And I mean, we can go back to we probably deserve it more than anybody, considering outside of the indigenous peoples, right? Outside of the indigenous peoples who we've seen the whole Natchez nation wiped away due to colonization, and not only colonization, but a massacre, right? And we see the Choctaw people living on small reservations when this was their land before it was anybody's land.
Yeah.
So, just recognizing that, we deserve this land. It is our blood, our toil, our ancestors' blood and toil that actually created the space for America to be the superpower in the first place. And it was cotton that made America the superpower.
That's right.
That it's still living on its legacy. So, we deserve this. And I'll go into more reasons why we deserve it, because not only do we deserve it because of our legacy, but we also deserve it because we've been responsible.
Yes.
We've been working miracles out of nothing to ensure that residents of Jackson, that we save ourselves.
That's right. Making something
but
out of nothing.
Danielle can tell the story a lot better than I can, so I'm gonna be quiet.
Hop on in here, Danielle, and add anything that you want to the conversation. Tell us about.
Actually, my sis has just laid it out. She's laid the ground. She's laid the foundation. It's hard to come behind what she's already said, right? So I dare not try to do that. I will say before I get started, the amazing partnership that this coalition has built with the city of Jackson. And really want to shout out those workers and Wanda Rice, who's the leader, the constituent services director that has been leading this initiative with the Mississippi Rapid Response Coalition. And so this work is so much needed, right? Mm-hmm. What we're seeing is a direct reflection of how this country, one, treats poverty, prioritizes poverty, and how the state prioritizes poverty. Yeah. Here in the state of Mississippi, we have 1.5 million individuals living in poverty. That number went up. A large percentage of that poverty, well, not a large percentage, but you have a good number of that poverty that comes out of Jackson, the Jackson metro area.
Absolutely.
And so we're not even talking about poverty in the Mississippi Delta. Mm-hmm. This water crisis that's happening in Jackson is happening across the state in rural areas. And so this is what the treatment of Black communities, poor and low wealth communities, this is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Starving. We're at a place of, I'm assuming our state-led, Republican-led leadership is waiting on us to bow down on our knees and say, Master, will you please come and rescue us before they step in and do anything. But I tell you, I come to serve you notice, that ain't gonna happen, right?
Amen, sister.
We've been making some stuff happen here in the city of Jackson.
Amen.
So,
I mean, it's taking some foundations.
I gotta ask you this question, because honestly, you're part of the Poor People's Campaign. Obviously, that's something that we are familiar with, and one of the things that poverty, doesn't generally, choose a color per se, but we wind up being the most impoverished communities. But I'm kind of curious in terms of the coalition and in terms of poor white folks that might be living in Jackson and having to experience this too in a predominantly Black town. Have there been partnership? Because some of this really falls into a reparations and a reparations justice space. And so the fight for infrastructure becomes a repair, but the repair has to also have the support of the poor white folks too. So I that question was a little broad, but I hope you understand, kind of what I'm getting to.
Absolutely. A lot of our problems as it relates to the issues that happen here in Mississippi is that, one, we don't have poor whites organized to vote in their best interest. That's been a conversation of the coalition of our work that we do overall in all pockets, right? How do we get poor whites organized and begin to push that communication? But I will tell you, we have poor whites showing up on the front lines. Okay. We are in community with poor whites. We're just not in community with enough poor whites, right? That could push and really change the dynamics here in the state of Mississippi as to what it really needs to be. And without that group, that sector of folks, the poor whites, we're going to continue to see ourselves at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to elections and how do we turn these dynamics around. However, we're still not going to submit and bow down.
I know that's right. We just got to teach them about Bacon's rebellion so they can find some heart again. They got to find the heart again.
I want to talk about that because I agree with you. I think the danger that I see as we watch the developments here in California, what's happening, back home, is that as Rukia said, this has been something that has been an accumulation over years of federal and state failure to resource the city of Jackson, the capital city of Mississippi. But now what we see is that the state has kind of ridden in, on a proverbial white horse and is looking like heroes to say like, hey, we're going to like get a rental pump at the O.B. Curtis facility. And we're going to come in and help the city deal with this problem, when really they've been a large contributing factor to the current situation. So I want to get your thoughts on that, because I know there's been some tension between city and state government. And my fear is that this is angling towards, a state-run.
Yeah, they want to come in and take control. We've been neglectful, but now we want to swoop down, like you said.
And it sounds a lot like Mason, Tennessee to me, right?
Yes.
So, Rukia, we'll start with you, and then Danielle, I want to get your thoughts there as well.
Yeah. Well, the state trying to take over our resources and our power is something that we've been used to for a long time.
Yes.
When 2017, the state tried to take our school district, and we were able to come collectively together as community, as city council folks, as mayoral administration, and we were able to prevent that from happening. I think, and then we saw it again before that, prior to that, with our airport, where the state is consistently trying to take our airport. And let me tell you how slick they can sometimes be. The current Lieutenant Governor Delbert Holzman once remarked, well, let's talk about your water infrastructure bill if you would go ahead and agree to drop that lawsuit that you have regarding the airport.
That's
because
extortion.
currently Jackson maintains an airport, a lawsuit to prevent the state from taking the airport. And he says, well, let's talk about that. Then we can talk about your water infrastructure,
Jesus.
right?
Yeah.
So, we've been seeing it over and over again. So we're going to continue to fight for our right to lead, our right to control our resources, our right to control our city, right? Mm-hmm. We're the people that live here, and we deserve to make the decisions that are critical to creating a better way of life for us here in this capital city and everywhere that we are.
Yeah.
I'll stop there for a second. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah.
I really want to go into this timeline too at some point.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about, what has been done, right?
Okay.
I think people constantly are asking, well, how did it get this part? What y'all been doing in between all this time? How did it get so bad?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want you to understand that we're not a people sitting and just allowing, our water system to corrupt, our water system to die.
Absolutely.
Right? Like we're people in an administration that has been working hard.
Hold that thought. I just want to get Danielle's thoughts on state versus city. And that fight for control, and then we're going to come right back to that timeline, because I think that's very important too. So Danielle, anything you want to add to Rukia's comments?
Yeah, one thing I would say is that the Lumumbas have been under attack since they first became, the father, yeah. Lumumba was under attack, right? And especially the son Lumumba really came under attack, Mayor Anton Lumumba. And so that attack is because this Republican conservative-led leadership here in the state of Mississippi didn't want a black man coming in trying to liberate their people, right? And so because Mississippians have been bamboozled for so long, food for so long by people that look like us, right? Who have made it comfortable for this Republican-led leadership to treat Jacksonians the way that they do, but also to treat poor and low wealth across the state of Mississippi. It is our people that look like us who have been at the table 20, 30 years, right? Sitting behind closed doors, saying that we're fighting for you. We're the voice for you at the table. Mm-hmm. But we've gotten zero return on our dollars. And so these last few years, there's been a shift, and there's been a new rising, a new unsettling force that's really rising up to the cause. And we're saying no more. And so we know that there was a problem just alone with the name Lumumba, right? When the son got in office. And so the attacks began to happen. And these folks really dummied down. We did invest in Jackson then, but being that you come here talking about free the land by any means necessary, we really got to push back. We got to bring out we have to really show what the KKK looks like. We can no longer
like your attorney general. Right. I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clean fish. Like we can no longer disguise. We got to show, we got to pull the wool off and just be open with who we are, because we are at war now. You got a young black mayor that's saying free the land by any means necessary. And you got a white-led Republican leadership saying, I'll be damned if you do.
That's right. That's right. Rukia, I want to come back to you and talk a little bit about timeline. But before we do that, I want to just give folks that aren't familiar with the water system in Jackson just a little context here on how we got to this most recent, crisis of low water pressure, no water in many instances, polluted water, or, unbalanced, chemically unbalanced water. Because what we're talking about here really was the failure of the O.B. Curtis water facility, which is the second largest water treatment facility in Jackson. And what I was astonished by as I was reading through kind of what occurred at OB and what the reports are coming out of it was that this, first of all, it was running on backup pump power already. So these were backup pumps that failed. But then when I'm reading reports out of what they saw as they toured and looked, MEMA and the health department as they went through OB Curtis, they cite critically unsafe municipal staffing levels, so under-resourced in staffing.
Yep.
So you had a cessation of all standard preventative maintenance required for compliance for water treatment facilities that led to basic safety protocols and precautions being ignored due to lack of staffing. The intake water sensors that monitor pH levels were not functioning. So that's critical in trying to understand how the water needs to be treated before it goes out to residents. And the list just goes on and on of, the deferred maintenance and the crumbling infrastructure at this particular water plant, which was already in a failure mode.
Right.
So I just wanted to put that out there for folks that they see the news, they see this kind of hitting big, and they think, oh, this just happened. But no, to your point, this was an accumulation of, deferred maintenance and neglect. And so I wanted to give that context now as we go into the timeline that I know you have nailed down you're going to share with us here.
Yeah. And, that neglect comes from a lack of resources.
Yes.
And I want to be very clear. You cannot fix a problem without the tools.
Yes.
And what we've been trying to do over and over and over again is put a Band-Aid on huge problems. And so all it does is that, the blood just comes on pouring out, right? Like it is not, you can't put a Band-Aid on an open wound that needs stitches. And so what we've done is every year since 1997, the administration, so 1997 was when we received our first Black mayor, Harvey Johnson.
Yeah.
Every year since 1997, the administration, mayoral administration, whether I agree with their politics or not, requested infrastructure money, water infrastructure money from the state government, and were denied. What we saw were denied what they asked for, right? Since 1997, Jackson had plans to put in place for its water system. And most recently, revised those plans in 2013. In 2019, the city sued and recovered millions of dollars of losses caused by Siemens Company, which for its flawed billing and meter system, it was supposed to bill for the system. This provided a $90 million settlement. That settlement funds immediately went into buying new sewer pumps, fixing a decrepit, inoperative billing system that was causing residents thousands of dollars, went towards installing new meters in people's homes that read properly, and then meters in places in over 20,000 homes in Jackson that never had a meter because Siemens never put the meter in there in the first place.
Unbelievable.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's been set aside to continue water infrastructure. The issue, though, is that this water infrastructure problem is over $1 billion infrastructure issue.
Yeah.
Right? And we have to really acknowledge that.
Absolutely.
In 2020, the governor vetoed bipartisan legislation that would have allowed Jackson even greater ability to collect payments lost due to the Siemens debacle. But he also vetoed this during a time when we were suffering one of the worst winter storms of our existence, right? Which left people without drinkable water for a month. And the governor didn't even call for a state of emergency until 3 weeks into our water situation, where we were without water, electricity, and without any form of heat. 3 weeks, the people of Jackson cared for themselves. This coalition in the city itself came out in droves to try to help people who had no water, no heat, no electricity, get what they needed.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, right? You know, and
Terrible.
so then, you know, we go down, we talk now about 2021, just last year, when the city again asked for 47 million to fix the water system. The state instead granted 3 million.
Wow.
Yes, 3 million.
Wow.
And so
Go ahead. Go ahead.
go ahead. No.
No, because
Yeah.
you're bringing up some great points, Rukia, that I do want to dig into a little bit, because the billing system is something that's been on my mind as well, because I know the billing issues of the past, but now what worries me is that we have residents who are paying for water that they can't drink, they can't bathe in, they can't use, and it's not potable, but bills are still going out, and the taxes are still being collected. So tell me your perspective on the residents there, the burdens that they've had to carry of being
so
self-supportive. I know there is, sis, but try to emphasize for us the things that we need to know outside of Mississippi.
Yeah, so many. The residents here have been patient, been understanding, have sacrificed so much to ensure that they're able to live a good quality of life, have drinkable water. So one, residents for many years were stuck getting high bills as high as $1,500 for their water, living in a household of maybe 3 or 4, right?
Wow.
Nobody should have, including myself, right? I had high water. It's over $2,000 worth of water bills, right? And so we've all experienced it. Residents, also having to, throughout all of our boil water notices. Last year in 2021 alone, we had 225 days of boil water notices.
My God.
Right? Residents having to go through that. As a child in the 1990s, we had boil water notices, right? This is not a new problem, but it has definitely increased to be a problem that has come to scale. It's come to its tipping point. It's come to the breaking point, right? And so, we've seen that. Right now, residents are paying for water, right?
It's incredible.
Water that in some instances, well, one, if you're not having water come through, residents who don't have any water coming through are not being charged for water if water isn't coming through. But there are many residents who, like in my home and in other homes, are having water trickling through, having water that is not suitable to bathe in, right? Coming out brown as they're continuing to fix this plant. And we'll continue to see this as they continue to fix the water infrastructure issue. We'll continue to see as they're putting in new pipes, as they're fixing the tanks and all of that. We'll continue to see some of this happen. And so one of the things that this current administration did in 2017 when it first came into office is that it created a water bill of rights. And then it also did a moratorium on water bills. So for the good first almost 2 years, we did not have to pay any water bills until they figured out what was going on. Currently, we're paying water bills. And so we'll see what the city is able to do around supporting residents in terms of their water bills moving forward during this very difficult time. The city also put in place what we call an ability or forbearance process where folks can sign up with the city to pay at certain periods of time and can pay overtime as opposed to paying immediately. So people's water don't get cut off, period. Right.
Yeah.
And that's really important.
Yeah.
Danielle and Rukia, whoever can answer this question, I'm just curious, has there been any push for federal oversight of the state? And I'm asking this because we have this water crisis. We had it back in March when we spoke with your brother. We have Attorney General Fitch not doing anything on the Emmett Till case. With the arrest of Carolyn Bryant, we have the whole crazy Brett Favre story with it is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's all happening, in the state of Mississippi. And so because you all, have this strong partnership with government, you have the coalition, I'm wondering from the People's Campaign, maybe there's been some push to say, look, DOJ, it's a lot going on at our state level in terms of dysfunction, misappropriation of funds. We as a state need you to come in here to clean up our state. for its mismanagement of our funds.
And before you answer that, I just want to add to it, because I think, Friday, that's an excellent question. Because, last year Biden signed the American Rescue Plan Act, right? $1.2 billion for infrastructure.
Yeah.
And he pointed specifically to Jackson, Mississippi as a city that would receive funding from that plan. And it's about $450 million that's available, if I can trust my notes here. But it sounds like, again, the state is blocking resources, or,
I mean, they're paying companies that are not doing,
So I think that's a great question. Is there any federal intervention that you guys are pursuing or that you see possible?
We are in conversation. I've just testified before the White House Environmental Justice Advisory Council a few weeks ago, even before this disaster, or our initiative to begin to work long-term with the city around this water crisis. I will say, because what we're dealing with is very fragile, I don't think it would be good to give out or to talk about what are our next strategies.
Gotcha.
Understood.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we have to kind of move under the radar as we navigate through this water crisis. So I don't think it would be appropriate at the time.
I appreciate that.
Okay, absolutely. Rukia, did you have anything to add to that?
I think Danielle is spot on. Okay. I don't have much to add to that at all. Yeah, I think it's an important ask.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'll say, though, is one thing that I forgot to mention is that, residents also have sacrificed money outside of just water bills. In addition to taxing themselves 1% in 2013 and implemented in 2014, residents actually voted to tax themselves 1% to support water infrastructure improvement through a referendum, city referendum.
We could have you guys longer. We could have you longer.
Yeah, this is my Tougaloo crew right here.
I mean,
we can always come back.
Yes, I'm like, we're gonna have to have you back. I think this is important. It's endemic of I think the state of Black communities and Black infrastructure, particularly across the Black Belt in the South, and this critical failure. It has to be seen so that there can be change. I don't know how else to say it. As long as, they could limp by and the reports and nothing happened, nothing was done. And I applaud you both so much for your advocacy, for working with, your local government to make it a partnership. We definitely need more of that within our community. You are just like these light beams, these rays of light. And I'm just so thankful for having had the opportunity with you both today.
Yeah. I love y'all Tougaloo alums, right? So, but from my perspective, knowing Jackson, it's my home. We're here to be fully supportive of you, even though I'm a long way from home. I want you to know you have support network, that stretches all the way out to, California, and anything that we can do to assist you on the ground, especially if it's, something where we can advocate here locally and try to get our local elected officials engaged and involved with us at the local or federal level, please let us know. I want to connect the advocacy that we are doing here for reparations to what you are doing there on the ground in Mississippi, because I say to anyone who will listen that the pathway for our collective justice squarely runs through Mississippi. And we are focused on what's happening there. After you, we're going to have Priscilla Sterling, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the Emmett Till effort to bring justice to that particular case, as well as what's happening with them in this crisis. But I just wanted to reaffirm to you that you have partners, and we want to build the same type of coalition with you on the ground there in Mississippi from California.
Thank you all. I will say before we leave is that what you all see is the warehouse that I'm in now, that we've been working out. Ricky and I, we work out of on a daily. She went to the house for a minute, but ended up getting stuck there on the call. But I'm here at the warehouse, and all of this is water behind us. So,
and just quickly before you go, let us know any donation sites that you guys are working with, where our audience can, donate, can help support. Anything that you want to throw out there. I know you named some orgs earlier, Rukia, but if you have some, donation sites or something that you want to put out here, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to any of the organizations that I mentioned earlier. or you can go to jacksonpeoplesassembly.org, and it'll give you the direct link to donate to our efforts here to provide clean water to residents of Jackson, to our community members. That's jxnpeoplesassembly.org. Again, jxnpeoplesassembly.org. Really appreciate y'all. Got two of my alum.
Yes.
Say it again.
No, and then we got Tougaloo.
That's right.
Tougaloo in the house. So
love it.
Absolutely. No, thanks,
Rukia.
Danielle. Thank you for being here, and let's stay connected. Let's stay connected and keep
Thank
the conversation
you.
going. Absolutely.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back.
What's happening, family? We are back from the break, and what you saw in a very quick promo there was once again an announcement about SB 189 out here in California, which is the state budget trailer bill that for the first time ever includes language that for the first time ever will require the state to disaggregate the Black African American category when collecting data for the state's 2.5 million employees.
And it requires for the first time for them to collect the data on the descendants of persons enslaved here in the United States.
And resurrects the term American freedmen for the first time since Reconstruction.
Yes.
So not a small deal, as I like to say, right? That's a big deal. So kudos again to Coalition for a Just and Equitable California for all the work that you've been putting in for the past couple of years to make SB 189 a reality.
Yep. We are going to keep the show moving. This is a friend. To the family.
This is our local Mississippi correspondent at this point.
At this point, she is. So we have with us again Priscilla Sterling, co-founder of the Emmett Till Justice for Families Foundation, Mississippi. She is an assistant teacher at Lanier High School in Jackson
833.
and a health worker in the Georgetown community. Ms. Sterling is a graduate of Lanier High School and Belhaven University, and Ms. Sterling is a blood relative to both Mamie and Emmett Till, and we welcome her to the show with two special guests, Gwen Smith and Demetria Johnson. Everybody, welcome to Politics in Black.
Welcome, ladies.
How are you? Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you for taking some time out.
Demetria was not able to attend. She had some business with her son. So okay. Gwen Smith is here with me tonight.
Okay, well, family business first always. But thank you for being here, Gwen. Thank you for being here, Priscilla. And really, we wanted to have you both ladies to kind of give us the community on the ground perspective of what you've been dealing with over these past couple of months. You know, we're on the outside looking in. It's close to our hearts, but we want to hear from you. So whoever wants to begin, let us know what it's like for you on a day-to-day.
Hi, everyone. I'm Priscilla Sterling, co-founder of the Emmett Till Justice for Families Foundation here in Mississippi. And it has been a struggle. And it's interesting because we just found out yesterday that there was a gentleman, and I don't know if I can say gentleman, was found guilty here in Mississippi Wednesday, August the 31st. Robert Douglas out of Flowood, Mississippi, who was a co-business owner of an industrial waste site out in Brandon, Mississippi. Well, he was found guilty of dumping industrial waste in Jackson sewer water system.
My God.
Yes, and I'm going to send you all the article out of the Department of Justice, but we had the Environmental Protection Agency here as well as the Criminal Investigative Division with the FBI. So he will actually be sentenced in November of this year. So I find that to be pretty deep.
Absolutely.
That we just found this out, and I don't know why it has not been made public or nationwide news.
Yeah. So just so the audience, because I like when things are important, I like to make sure we hammer home on them. So what you just said was that in the midst of this epic water crisis where residents have no water, have nothing that they can use that's potable, we also have, gentleman is a euphemism, but we also have this man who is dumping toxic waste into the water supply at the same time. My God.
Who was found guilty Wednesday in the Southern District Court here in Jackson.
Hell ain't hot enough.
So I feel that should be national news, as
Absolutely.
well as with me working in the school system, our children can't drink water. As you all know, we didn't have school any last week. We had to do virtual. Our businesses, as far as going to any eatery, fast food restaurants, we may be served, but we can't have any drinks out the fountains. They either serve Sprite or Coke. Wow. No other drinks or fountain drinks. And most of the businesses that are in Jackson is really affecting the work of the employees. Yes. So you have people talking about leaving out of Jackson based on what's happening in Jackson right now. Yeah. And especially finding out that we are having waste dumped into the sewer here in Jackson. Yeah. We need what you call it, the United Nations, because now this is a human rights issue.
Right. Absolutely. It's a humanitarian issue at this
point. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Gwen,
yes, sir.
Gwen, I'm going to come to you. Just quickly introduce yourself again and let us know, just like Priscilla did, what you've been dealing with.
Well, my name is Gwendolyn Smith, and I'm called Gwen most of the time. And what we're dealing with is the fact that as residents here, when we don't have adequate needs to cover us and the thing that we need to survive on, then that puts us in a different place, in a different mode. We're looking at water being a commodity for us in order to survive. And bottled water for the last 2.5 years, faulty water system going down every 28 days per se. We're paying a water bill that we're not able to use water.
Yeah.
People, jobs is being taken. We had a pandemic that caused 2 years of lost wages in most places. Then we have issues where money is being not only utilized that we have here, but it's being sent back to the federal government, which could fix the system, the water system, the housing system, the rental system that would help the Jackson people be able to restore some of the use in facilities like the construction and reconstruction of our roadways that we could better support and supply the city of Jackson.
Yeah.
It hasn't been done. So we are asking anyone, anywhere, the dollars to come to the city of Jackson that help us to restore Jackson to where it used to be at one time when it wasn't, as they said, 82% black. But we are still the same people paying the same taxes.
That's right.
Who must utilize the same services.
Right.
Jobs that could be fairly distributed amongst us is being taken away from us. Big companies are moving away. Tax dollars is lost because they cannot supply their workers.
Yeah.
They're going to other counties. Whereas you look at Jackson as one time being the sun and all the other counties around it as the sun rays.
Yeah. Well,
the sun is being depleted and the rays are starting to shine in different directions.
That's right.
So we need to incorporate back into the sun so the sun could continue to shine as being the capital. Then everybody else could flourish.
That's right. That's right.
And we as the capital should be able to be supportive of the other places instead of being deducted.
Yeah. No,
we are being reduced.
And I'm glad, Gwen, you gave that perspective because as long-term residents, both you and Priscilla, you've seen how Jackson has been bled over decades, right? So I agree with you. You know, prior to 1970, prior to Brown v. Board, when it was still segregated schools, you had a tax base that was still very much in the city of Jackson. Then, as we heard in our last segment, that white flight occurred, and it seems like it's been consistently, Jackson has now been consistently targeted over the years for divestment, for extraction of resources, for extraction of jobs, making it a place where the majority black residents no longer have the means, as you said, to survive, the needs that they need on a day-to-day basis. I don't know how you go to work without any running water. I don't know how you go to work. I don't know how any businesses stay open without potable, clean water.
I'm curious to know whether or not we have an insurance commissioner here in the state of California. If there's a comparable office in Mississippi, I'm wondering, especially if there was this federal case of dumping, who insured the company, and why isn't there money from the insurance coming into Jackson? Not to the state, to the city of Jackson, so that the residents can clean it up. Like, there needs to be resources put into play.
Which jobs will be readily made available. And see, that's the issue. Where is that money that should be paid by the insurances? And why is this not made public? Why don't you all have this story? Yeah. See, and that is what the media here has been doing. They have not been sharing the truths that are here that's coming out of Jackson. They're not sharing the suffering and the pain of the residents of Jackson. And this is done purposefully. This is environmental racism.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And how do you pay a water bill when you're not having water services? Yeah. How? But you're still told to pay the bill because the city of Jackson have to stay on course with the flow of money. But when you go to the store, you pay for your merchandise, then you get service.
Yeah, that's right.
If you don't pay for your merchandise, then you don't get no service. Yeah. Well, we paying service for merchandise that we're not receiving or utilizing.
Substandard service, if any, absolutely. This just makes me so mad. I'm sorry.
It does. It does, because it's so wrong on so many levels. Earlier in our first segment of the show, I talked about the fact that Mississippi has, Attorney General Fitch, who is not prosecuting Carolyn Bryant for the death of Emmett Till. We have what do you call it? Here we call it EBT, I think, but the TANF cards and Brett Favre. So Brett Favre is being paid by state dollars that's supposed to be going for poor people and food for children.
Yeah, for speeches he never gave.
For speeches he never gave. Yeah. But that's the good old boy network at work. And then we have this water crisis, which Mayor Lumumba talked with us in March of this year, in the fight with the state to pay for their infrastructure, to pay for their buildings, to actually put some money into Jackson. And it's not happening. And so there's almost a point where you go, okay, well, federal government, get the state in line. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The corruption is so deep at the state level. It's like, what do you do?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Governor Reeves make a statement that folks should just take showers with their mouths closed? Didn't he say something disrespectful like that?
Yes. And see, that's the problem. We're dealing with a white supremacist system of government here in Mississippi. And it's really the Jackson residents against the government of Mississippi.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is. It's the residents against the government. And this is ridiculous. And we need help. Yeah. We need help in the city of Jackson. Because like they were saying, we have all this money, and Congressman Benny Thompson said it best. We have all this money coming into the state of Mississippi that's supposed to utilize the city of Jackson, but yet they're sending the money outward into the suburb.
That's right.
Around Jackson.
Yep.
And they're building up around Jackson. And I don't know if you all know, there's a blueprint for the future of Jackson, right? And if you see this blueprint for the future of Jackson, it does not include most of the neighborhoods that's right down in Jackson. So what is really going on.
Yeah.
Are they trying to get the residents, the citizens to leave or die?
Right.
Yeah.
Starve. Yeah. And that's what makes it, you're right. That's what makes it a humanitarian effort that where the U.S. should be subject to the UN's policies and for basically violating human rights.
Yeah.
That's it at its best.
It's genocide. It's a slow genocide.
That's it. And the United Nations, being who they are and what they do, this should be a national outcry. The United Nations should step foot here in this city along with the Department of Justice. Mm-hmm. We need some help here. We need for them to actually go throughout the government here and find out what's going on, because there is some undermining.
Yes.
There is some undermining within the system that's hurting the residents in this city.
Yeah.
And I can't even say the entire state of Mississippi. Right now, it is the city of Jackson. Because the suburbs, like I said, they're being federally funded. They have running water in their home. I mean, just 16 miles outside of Jackson, people have water, decent water. They're taking showers, drinking. And it is the city that is suffering.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Well, I think we got a couple more minutes here, if I'm not mistaken. I want to ask you, because Priscilla, you work over there at Lanier.
I'm at Murrah now.
Oh, you at Murrah now? Okay, all right. You went over to the other side. It's all right. So talk to me a little bit about, because JPS was already dealing with its own struggles, right? Jackson Public Schools was already dealing with its own struggles, and now this water crisis, this continuing water crisis. Talk to us about how it has affected the children and the school system there in Jackson.
It's ridiculous because everything has to be brought in already pre-prepared. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, how do you expect children to get on virtual when you having to deal with brushing your teeth, cooking the food with the water out of your faucet, taking a bath, and you honestly think children have time, and the parents have time to really sit there and think about learning? Mm-hmm. This is a problem within itself. Yeah. The teachers having to get on virtual, helping the students, and their mind is not there focused. Their parents aren't focused. And I know a lot of my parents, they're just moving back in their homes from the flooding.
Yeah, that's right.
And broken water pipes. So it is a challenge within itself, just with the children that's in JPS school district of dealing with this crisis.
Yeah.
Right. Has FEMA showed up on the scene down in Jackson?
Yes. And we don't know the outcome yet, because like I said, they do a lot of things behind closed door, and you have to hear from somebody to find out actually what was the recourse.
Yeah. And that's something, we talked about on an earlier broadcast about federal emergency response and the bias and the racism that's inherent in that system. So not only do we have racism and how the city of Jackson is being targeted for these types of environmental, calamities. But we also then on the other side, when we talk about the repair and, fixing the water, because I was watching, and I see that the state has come in, they've rented a pump now that's at the O.B. Curtis system. So the state, which every time I see the governor in a press conference, it's a whole bunch of non-black people surrounding him. It doesn't look like Jacksonians that's surrounding him. That's a problem,
you all. Yeah. That is a problem. That's the reason why we are here today, to share with you all. We need help, because if you have a structure, and this is not me making anything up, this is what you all see and the world see. Mm-hmm. There is a white supremacy system that's controlling what's happening within the city, and it's not for our good. So that's why we're asking for the UN to step in, the Department of Justice to step in, so they can go out and look at the paperwork, see the funds that have been sent back to other places, and why they are doing the citizens this way. Mm-hmm. What is the achievement? What is their aim? What is the goal to the city of Jackson?
So what can we do to support that ask, to support the ask for the UN and to support the ask for the DOJ to come in? What can we do? What can our viewers do to help you all?
We're going to send you out some articles on this very information of this man, Robert Douglas, 60 years old, out of Flowood, who's a co-business owner pleading guilty Wednesday. See, it's articles like that of the dumping of industrial waste into the Jackson water sewer. These articles, this information that is not made public, that you all are not getting on the airwaves, this needs to become public. So we want you all to be the ones to send this message over to the UN and the Department of Justice and get other people involved based on this factual information.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you. Because again, you have President Biden who, to pass this, American Rescue Plan Act, he used Jackson as a model. He held up Jackson saying this was going to be someplace that was going to receive some relief. And we're not seeing that happen.
It was probably intended, and they did send it here, and Tate Reeves sent it back.
Yeah.
And we also like to make an address to this being, we're not using George Floyd name in vain in no certain form, but we're likened to whereas Jackson, the city of Jackson they had a foot put on their neck.
Yeah.
So not only are we the students that have to go to school, the parents that have to go to work, the people that become unemployed through this crisis, we aren't able to literally breathe because the air we breathe is contaminated from the fumes of all the waste that have came in it's impure.
Yeah.
The kids cannot eat, drink at school because everything is either bottled or pre-mixed or pre-fed. You go home, you got to boil the water before you drink the water. So we're being strangled slowly but surely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're just asking help from wherever it could, donations for wherever it can come from.
Mm-hmm.
Where, you have the Tyler Perry, the Oprah Winfrey, the Michael Jordans, the LeBron James, the Steph Curry. If you're there and you're part of humanity, we're asking any and everyone that can donate to the city of Jackson that we can become one. Because as we said, when we take the Constitution in school, it said we the people.
Yeah.
And we are part of the people.
We are the people. I agree with you, Gwen. We are the people. Absolutely.
We follow that preamble.
Yeah.
And when you said make America great again, it's more like make America great when.
Yeah. Yeah.
When everyone is given equal opportunity to eat the same food, to live in the same place, to drink the same water.
Mm-hmm.
Our children have the same privilege to have an education when their homework is sent by paper because you don't have internet service for them to learn. Once the school system is down, they're receiving their work 2 or 3 days later. One computer to 5 kids in a family. When are we gonna make it great again?
Yeah. No, you preaching, Gwen. You preaching.
Yeah.
Let me talk a little bit or ask you a little bit about the water distribution efforts, because I saw that there have been several sites around the city that have been designated as kind of water distribution efforts, but it looks like they are woefully understaffed and it looks like they're unprepared for the demand of nearly 200,000 people in the city. I'm seeing long lines. It's hot there in Jackson in late August, September, et cetera. Have you had any experience with these water distribution sites? And if so, tell us about that.
Well, they're running okay right now, but it's not as much. Like you said, a home that have 5 people, then you're only giving out 1 or 2 cases of water.
That's a problem.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
And then you have people that are going to work from 8 to 5.
Yeah.
And when they're going to work and during that time of water distribution here, they miss out. So when they get off work, they can't get any water. So that's a problem of the demand for water.
Because by the time they get off work, the station have closed down.
Right.
So you have a choice to go to work and make money to pay the bills, or you go stand in line and try to get water in order for you to utilize the essential that you need in the house.
Yes, that's a problem.
So it is a problem.
Yeah, literally having to choose between
Yes, to
basic
go to work
necessities
versus
or go to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that God.
We have several people that they're in that situation.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Priscilla and Miss Gwen,
let's get some donation links too.
You have given us a lot, and thank you. When we get the articles, we'll do the social media thing that you know us to do.
Yes, ma'am.
to get it out there with that ask. Are there any organizations? I mean, we know about your organization, but any organizations you all want our people to actually make contributions and donations to
I do
support
not have
you
a
all?
few. I don't have them with me right now, but I can send them to you
Yeah, okay.
once we're off. I can get the information and send it to you.
Yeah, we'll make sure that gets distributed, and folks, because part of what we want to make sure we're doing is that we are contributing to the right people that will get the
Right.
resources where they need
Right.
to go.
That's right.
So
And
yes,
then we also would like to still send to the city of Jackson.
Gotcha.
gotcha. Well,
Make sure the funds is being sent to the city of Jackson so that the people in charge, like the mayor office, would know where the money need to be distributed throughout Jackson, because we of the people that are in Jackson know exactly where the funds should be distributed in Jackson.
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah, absolutely. We got to stay on the state and make sure that they are allocating resources from some of these federal dollars
That's
to
right.
get to Jackson as well. So no, I hear you 100%. And sisters, thank you so much for being here. You know, that's my home. So I feel for y'all every day. Just know that we continue to pray, and we're going to do anything we can out here in California to help you there in Jackson,
Yes,
because
indeedy.
this is all tied together. This
We
ain't-
all Southern folks. We
No.
Southern folks.
But this is,
All right now.
yeah, Jackson is
We're not
indicative.
leaving Jackson, so they can hang it up. And I just want to say to every citizen that lives within the city of Jackson,
Stand firm.
stand firm,
10 toes down.
Yeah.
Amen.
And steady.
stand firm.
Amen.
All right.
Well, sisters, y'all have a good
Thank
rest of your
you.
Sunday, and stay safe out there.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm just so mad Friday. I'm just so mad because not only is that my home, but as we hear, this is targeted racism, y'all.
It's
This is-
targeted
this is-
genocide.
this
It's
is
beyond
targeted
racism.
You're right, genocide, because this city is over 80%. It's the blackest city in the country. So for all of you watching around the country, and this is happening, we know in Flint, we know this is happening in rural Mississippi. This is happening to our communities all around this country.
Mason, Tennessee.
Mason, Tennessee. We have to get organized, and if this doesn't make you mad, I don't know what's going to get you up and get you active. This is genocide. They are slowly killing us, and Jackson, Mississippi has always been a hub for our justice. This is not a mistake that they are coming after Jackson, Mississippi like this. This is very intentional. We have to recognize this. When we talk about reparations, we can't let Jackson, Mississippi die. We can't let those residents die and believe that we're going to get to reparations. It's not going to happen that way. This is part of the same fight. I need everybody to get mad.
As I close us out, I just want to remind people we do have this conference coming up in September 30th and October 1st in Atlanta, Georgia, where we will be rolling out what's known at the national level as a Repair Act, because the National Org's job is to teach and to train about politics and about policy memos that, yeah, we want the federal reparations through commission, through executive order, however we can get there. But we have to be in a position to take care of our local politics to make sure that we are taken care of. And we have to take care of Mississippi. We got to take care of our tiny towns. We got to take care of the places that our grandparents came from.
That's right.
And our parents came from.
That's right.
So to that end, that's
But
my message.
Before we get out here, I want to go through a list of organizations.
Yes.
You heard Rakia name them. I want to make sure I name them once again so folks know which organizations are out there on the ground providing relief here. So I want to call out MSM Distribution, LLC.
Yes.
The Mississippi Rapid Response Coalition, MRRC, the People's Advocacy Institute, and we have Rakia here from PAI, Mississippi Food Network, Cooperation Jackson, Catholic Charities of Jackson, the Immigrant Alliance for Justice and Equity, Operation Good, Working Together Jackson, and Strong Arm Jackson. That's just a few of the organizations that I've seen, through my research that are actually trying to provide relief to folks on the ground there. So thank you for that. And to the audience, to the family everywhere, this is where we need to be focused. This is where we need to we need to start that fire of collective justice in Mississippi. It's a reason the freedom rides went through Mississippi.
Yes.
It's a reason that MLK went down to Mississippi. It's a reason that James Meredith and his murder sparked out of Mississippi and the activism that came out of Mississippi. Pay attention to this, please.
Pay
And
attention to
understand that this is
Mississippi.
our family. Pay
This
attention
is our
to Mississippi.
family. We got the connection going from Los Angeles to Mississippi. Is not going anywhere. So stay tuned for more coming out of the South, and especially Mississippi. Until next time, we're back in 2 weeks.
Yep.
This has been another episode of Politics in Black. Thank you so much.
Peace, fam. Our issues, our voices, our views. This is